So thanks everyone for being here and I think everyone participated in the workshop earlier in April. So thanks so much for that enthusiastic participation as well. Um, this webinar will just take us really quickly, recap what we talked about during the workshop and what came out of the workshop. And then I'll also just give a few quick updates on the experiments and where they're at the moment, because they're both the short Coles notes is that they're in fundraising phase and moving quite quickly, so that's exciting. And then the finance week. So as always, again, for those of you who are new, feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions or add any input, because it does help. And then, like I said, this will be posted for those who are unable to attend and shared afterwards. So let's dive right in. The first thing I just wanted to remind everyone of is that the public consultation for the mapping, the Geneva Sustainable Finance Mapping, is on its final day. Oh, hello.
Hi, this is Sarah. Sorry for being late.
No worries. We were just starting, Sarah. So the mapping is on its final day of consultation. So if you haven't yet checked your own organization or added your organization, if we missed you, just please go and do that. You can access it from SFG's website or from this website here that's written on the slide. So far, we've had incredibly good turnout, which is great. A lot of people have provided us feedback. We're probably going to redo some of the categories slightly. We're definitely adding a few, and then of course updating those who were needing small changes. So thanks to all of you who participated, and again, one last, I guess, few hours to submit to the consultation. Also, you might have seen that it did get some good pickup in various blogs and newspapers. So that's kind of exciting to see that people are having it be a useful tool for them. Okay, so really quickly, because I believe, well, Mark wasn't there, but most of you were at the workshop. So Mark, maybe this will help for you and anyone else who missed it. But really quickly, the workshop, what we focused on in the very beginning session was just what brought us here and how, as an organization and a collaboration, we want to ensure that we have a successful collaboration. So in order to do that, we started with what brought each of us here and where there was commonalities, and then we designed a failure, so the opposite of what we wanted to happen, and talked about what we wanted to start, stop, and continue. For those of you who are kind of wondering why we spend a lot of time on this, there were a lot of new people to the organization and to the collaboration, but there was also this feeling that there were some things that people wanted to air in terms of how we could do better at keeping everyone be collaborative. So we felt it was important to surface those. So the first thing I'd say is what brought people here at the big picture was to find new ways to redirect capital flows and to really transform the financial system. And I think there was a lot of agreement on that. And then across the board, others were interested in bridging and building community, in thinking about the paradigms we operate under and how we change them, in building new networks personally, and also helping their individual initiatives go further. But then the thing that came out the most, and I think we all know this, is that the collaboration started last June, and we had a lot of really good energy, and we channeled that into the experiments, but it has taken time to get them into concept phase, and now more time to get them into potential pilot phase. So everyone just really underscored the importance of concrete results and tangible action. That's why that most people were there, is that they want to do new great work together and not become another talk shop. So we really underscored that point, and it's something that as a facilitator I'm definitely keeping in mind, and we're really trying to move in action-oriented ways. And I'll just also note that, of course, while we have 2 experiments that are developing quickly, there's always going to be, well, in the future there'll be space for more as we prove out the model and are able to mobilize more resources. So that was kind of what brought us here. And then on the designing a failure, or what we want the collaboration to start doing, there was a feeling that we could broaden our scope in terms of who's around the table. We very much right now have a coalition of the willing, and that's great. But there was a feeling that if we're really going to transform these systems, we need to also think about when we bring in the cynics, or the people who don't, believe the same way that we do in the potential of this. There was also this feeling that everyone who is participating is doing so in addition to their job. We all know this. And so we need to share our needs and incentives really openly so that people can get what they need out of this. So there was a feeling, for example, from some of the actors who are more on the international side of the lake, that this is going to help us to drive our outcomes. But, for a number of the financial actors, this is still a competitive environment, and they were very clear that this is going to help their business, and they want to be participating in things that will do that, not just kind of feel good type things. And I think that's really helpful for making sure that we can keep everyone engaged. Another thing that came up is that there is a tendency, we have two very diverse communities who have come together. So we do talk across each other sometimes, different languages, but also that hopefully over the course of the next few months, we can really have this collaboration speaking as a common united we, and not an us and them. So this is something we're really going to continue to work on. Building off of what we said about what brought us here in terms of concrete results and tangible action, we need more systems for action, more facilitation that allows this. And then finally, individuals just said we need to be clear that not everything's going to work, but this is really about trying to push the envelope and innovate together and collaborate. So that's going to be, we need to have some failure tolerance, but we also need to keep pushing. And I've noticed a couple more people have joined who weren't at the first workshop, or the workshop at the beginning of April. So if there's anything you'd like to add here, just to be noted, I'm happy to just take those down. There's a whole long list that is online, but for now, this should give you kind of a sense of some of the things that were raised. Okay. Like I said, feel free to jump in if you'd like. Oops, sorry. And then where we spent the next big chunk of time was on working groups around the various experiments. So, and when I say various, I mean the two of them. So blended finance and the pipeline builder. Blended finance focused on who needs to be engaged, because the next phase of their work will be on developing a kind of stakeholder strategy, or thinking through what that could look like, and who needs to be engaged to get this from a concept into a bankable model that has the potential to go for quite a long time. So they identified a number of actors. It also helped with buy-in from a number of the entities who were there to see themselves in how this blended finance center might come to be. So that was a really successful session. And again, you can find the notes of that online. And then for the pipeline builder, the idea moving forward would be to do a pilot, probably a smallish pilot with 1 to 2 countries to try out what they've kind of put forward as their model. And so what we determined in their session was what we need to answer in terms of in terms of that pilot. What would, if we ran the pilot, what would we need to know when we came out of it for it to have been a successful pilot? Because we don't think this one is going to necessarily get scaled or built and scaled in a hurry. It's important to test out the model first. So that was what that group focused on. And again, you can find that summary on the web platform. But maybe just at a high level, it was a lot of things around what's the business model? Can we do this in an integrated way, or do we need to focus on sectors in order to have it be meaningful? How would countries who set development priorities play a role in this, and what could they look like in building and finding companies who could potentially fill a pipeline? And then the mechanics of it, and how do we work around some of the risk and impact measurement pieces that are very tangible constraints for companies who are building financial products. So those were some of the big questions that came out. And then we had a lunch where there was a number of topics discussed, but I just here included, it was an open space lunch. And so there was a lot of great ideas flowing around. But then the big thing we talked about was the finance week. Or one of the big things we talked about was the finance week. So this finance week, I'll get into it in a minute, but it's coming up in October. And so people were brainstorming how we could make the most of that time. And engage as many people as possible. So that was, in a high level, what happened during the workshop. So first of all, anyone who wasn't there, do you have any questions? And then after, I'll ask anyone who was there if there's anything else that stuck out for you that you feel is worth kind of noting for the participants who missed it. So first, anyone who missed it, any questions, comments? Okay, and then anyone who was there, is there anything else that kind of stuck with you for the day or that you'd like to underscore?
Kelly, if I may, this is Tim from Alpha Mundi.
Yeah. Hi, Tim.
Hi. Very quickly, I think it was great to have. First of all, thank you for keeping us all, getting together on a regular basis. I think we need more regularity in the meetings, and maybe not, move to a quarterly in-person meeting. That would be probably good. There was obviously a lot of goodwill, a lot of skill sets, a lot of different interests, and I think to organize ourselves more effectively around the two projects that are the Pipeline Builder and the Blended Finance, it would be helpful if the people who are interested in one or the other project could meet separately to make progress between full group meetings. Mm-hmm. I think that's something important. I don't know if it's happening or not, but if it's not, I would recommend it. And I think that you mentioned the Sustainable Finance Week of October. That would probably be a very good moment to feature with more visibility a more mature articulation of these two projects, including budget, staffing, one or two early wins that we're going for. I think it would be a shame not to use the tremendous gathering that we're all working on for this week of October to benefit one or two of these projects. I'll stop here.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And so two comments on that. So the first is that the kind of making progress in between, the leads have still been meeting, but you bring up a very good point that I did send around a survey for people to note their interest in the various projects. And I will follow up with those who said, hey, yes, I'd like to be on the Pipeline Builder, or hey, yes, I'd like to be with the Blended Finance team. And I'll follow up with them in the coming week or week and a half to talk about what that will look like. I just haven't had time since I've been back, but it's a great point because we can't just have kind of group meetings be where people meet. It needs to happen in between as well. And I love the idea of a more regular meeting so people know that they're going to get FaceTime, and maybe I'll test that with a few others just to see if that's something that could be workable schedule-wise for individuals. And then it's a really good point about that October is the opportunity, or a huge opportunity, not only in that there's going to be so many coming, so many individuals coming to Geneva that we can showcase our great work to, and like you said, have a really clear articulation of how those experiments are being built and what they look like. But beyond that, I think it also gives us a line in the sand or a time to really work towards. And we all know that when we're working on things in parallel to our normal work, that they can kind of be hard to keep moving. So I think it's a really good point that is a good opportunity to work for it. And I know the committee who's working on particularly the Swiss event, which I'll talk about in a second, is really feeling that could be an opportunity to showcase the actual action, because we want Geneva to be showcased as a place, and Switzerland in general to be showcased as a place where we're approaching these issues in new ways and encouraging this collaboration between development community and the finance community. So great points. Preeti, were you going to say something as well?
Yes, Callie, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
So first of all, again, it was a great progress from last year to have these two very solid projects this time. So I really enjoyed, the being there, and I think that's great work by the lab and all the collaborations going on. My question was on the pipeline builder. I may not have heard, but will you be looking to build some sort of a technology platform to enable that work? So that was one question. And the second was, I sent you a message about this new CEOs forum that the UN has put together, the UNFFD forum in New York. And I was just wondering if this was the right time to ask that, or if there was any interaction with that group. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Preeti. I saw the email, but I haven't had a chance to dig into it. Can you just really quickly, is it the FFD forum coming up in September?
No, it's the one that happened in April. It's an annual one.
Yes.
And basically, I think it's coming from the Secretary General's general desire to have a big sort of financing summit at the General Assembly. But then this was the start. And I think UNCTAD's been kind of the agency behind it in some ways. But I just felt it was quite relevant to the pipeline builder as well. So just had sent it your way, and maybe at a later point you could let us know.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look. John Tidmarsh had his hand up.
Ali, thank you. And I just wanted to add a couple of more points. Thank you again also for all of the great work you are doing in sort of shepherding us in what is a very eclectic group. So that's fantastic. What I wanted to say was just to build on the point that you made about involving greater numbers of people. One of the things that came out from the Blended Finance Group was that there's quite a list of people who are interested in being involved in one shape or form or other. Just to give a quick update on where we're at with since the workshop, we've been moving forwards with a number of different conversations, and the next step is going, you've changed the slide.
This is the next slide, but go ahead because it's perfect timing.
Okay, well, I was just going to say we've had a number of discussions at this stage. Really, it's around two main areas. First of all is with regard to securing funding to have a really rapidly fundable proposition and implementation plan. So that's we've got to secure that. So there's discussions around that which are ongoing, and making requests for that from funders who have expressed their interest in potentially supporting that. Secondly, we've had a number of discussions with the key stakeholders, because the key issue is bringing everybody together, not only around Geneva, around the project, which obviously was fantastic to see the support for the idea at the event being confirmed, but above all around Switzerland. And so the conversations are bringing the different strands together between Bern and Zurich and Geneva, so that we have a maximum of alignment. So that's been going on as well. So the next step in terms of involving everybody is going to be, we're going to expand the group. So it's very useful to have had those statements of interest from those who attended the workshop. I wanted to add just a couple of other points, which is regard to Sustainable Finance Week. I think it would be really helpful, and maybe I've just missed it, but to have in one place a presentation of everything that's happening in Geneva on that date. Because I think that I have not seen slides.
That's okay.
I think that would be really helpful. And before I steal all your thunder then, Kelly, just to say with regard to the socials and build on came up in the workshop that we should be, the idea that there was a desire to get together on a sort of in-person basis, but also informally. And maybe that's one way also of having a regular informal get-together, which is as social as it is an update. On a slightly more regular basis, because there's a difference between working meetings and meetings of being updated and being interested in maybe getting more people involved and widening the group. So I would say that might be a path to follow.
Great, thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to touch on a number of points that John and Preeti made regarding the specific projects in a second, but just wanted to know if there's anything else anyone who was either at the workshop or missed the workshop wanted to highlight before we move into just updates on the experiments. Okay, so John did a great job of giving an overview of where things are at. I think the point on the Blended Finance Center of the links being made to Zurich and Bern is a really important one, and we're really excited about that. That there's a lot of kind of general Swiss interest, and that in parallel to kind of raising funds to develop a proposal that it has a business model to it, that we're also engaging various partners in that discussion. And of course, the idea of developing that proposal that we're going to be asking funding for will be also kind of thinking about really in depth what those partnerships will look like. So that will ramp up once the funding is clear, but those discussions are already starting. So there's a lot happening here. And I think for those of you who are interested in following along, like I said, I'll follow up with you if you filled out the survey to say that you want to stay involved. This is going to be an exciting space, particularly in the next month, because we're moving things very quickly with this one. So John summarized it well, but if you have any questions about where this one's at, just let me know now. And if not, I'm going to move to the pipeline builder. Okay. So on the, oh shoot, I left the wrong title. Like I said, jet lag brain. This is supposed to say pipeline builder. But the pipeline builder, essentially where we're at with it right now is that the idea is to do a pilot, and we've been talking to a couple countries that might be interested in working with us on this. The one that's most interested at this point is Mexico. So there's been discussion about, finding a country that would be well suited to a pilot and building out the process in how we would engage both dimensions, the kind of finance community and understanding their investment priorities, the development community and the government understanding development priorities, and bridging that gap. Preeti, at this moment, technology has not been discussed as a part of it. In fact, I think for the pilot, they've been talking about quite a low-tech patient solution. So one where we would test out some of the concepts we want to use and then think about what that would look like in a longer-term entity. So that might include technology, but for the pilot, I think the idea is just to try and get a couple deals done and see how it works. And in order to do that, the amount of work to do this type of pilot, especially with a country, is quite large. So we are looking for funding for this particular pilot. We have a couple meetings with foundations lined up, and we're starting to move forward on this as a concept of a pilot and then a longer term project if it works and if we're able to answer our key questions. But if anyone does have any ideas of someone who might be interested in this, the slide deck is up on the website, and you can get all the info about the vision here of bridging these two sides of the lake with innovative processes and information sharing, and then activating the pipelines in countries to hopefully find more bankable projects. But that is the premise, and Brinduza, our consultant, is kind of leading from a technical perspective, and then the lab has been talking to funders. So that's where we're at with the pipeline builder. Any questions on this one? Okay. So on the finance week, so this is what the week looks like at the moment. Oh, someone want to jump in?
Yeah, I couldn't find the mute button. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Don't worry.
Just a quick question for the pipeline builder. What do you guys think? So when you said the kind of questions that you're trying to get answered, like the outcomes you're trying, have you put on paper what those, is it volume? Is it the number of deals? Is it the number of Swiss francs or dollars or euros transacted? You've done that or thought that part through?
In terms of
pipeline
outcomes
builder?
for the entire pipeline builder? Sorry, by the way, who is this?
My name is Steve Rocco, and I was at the last meeting, but I'm quite familiar with the pipeline builder idea in general. So, and I've talked to Producer quite a bit about it. So I'm just curious if you guys have figured out, like, these are the outcomes we're shooting for. So maybe I just need to look at the information that's on the website.
Yeah, I think.
But I think that's the key.
I think it's a good point. The outcomes. I think, to be honest, the discussions we've had about the pilot would be just to have a few successful deals, because my understanding with conversations with Brinduza and Fabio is that it has been hard to stimulate local pipelines other than through some of these networks like SeedStars or Ashoka, but through the actual country, it's been hard to stimulate those networks of potential projects and companies. And so the last kind of discussion I had with them was that the idea would be to pick a country where we might be successful, show what the process would look like, and figure out what it takes to do it. And in the meantime, think about what we could hope to achieve in terms of outcomes. But I'll have to come back to you on that, Steve, because it could be that Brinduza has in her slide deck some of the, what, based on her initial discussions, she thinks it might be possible to achieve in terms of outcomes. I think my understanding of the concept is that the idea would be, I can't remember exactly what ones you just said, but yeah, the number of deals done and their size, the amount of money, capital flowing to sustainable development projects. That's ultimately what we're trying to do more of, is have more funding going to the projects that actually are driving development outcomes by bridging the gap between the two communities. So that's at a high level. I'm definitely no expert in this as a facilitator, but I'll come back to the group. I'll talk to Brinduza and see if there's any kind of outcome mapping that's been done up to this point. Okay, any other questions? All right. So on the finance week, so the week will be this October 7th to 11th. And this, just so everyone knows the history of this, and we've kind of talked about it before, this came about because the FC4S, which Mark is a key part of, is hosting their annual meeting in Geneva. So this meeting moves around the world, and the next one will be in Geneva. And so it's bringing financial centers from all over the world to Geneva. And so there was a discussion about how the Swiss might want to showcase the work that's happening in Switzerland as the host country of this particular event. And then it just so happened that there were other events that were falling very close. And so we've started to bring this together in a week. And I'm in charge of thinking about what the mission of that week will be and how we can have more individuals and entities contribute to it. Because for those of you who may have ever attended Peace Week, for example, it's a concept that's put out there, and then individuals and entities can choose to leverage it and run their own side events or their own pieces that feed into the overall mission and vision of the week. So that's what we're working on right now, is that mission and vision. But what is currently scheduled, just based on timing and things that were already going to be happening in Geneva. So the first is, for those of you who are familiar with Accelerate 2030, it's a initiative by the Impact Hub and UNDP and a number of other partners that brings developing country entrepreneurs to Geneva to meet with investors, and they also run a scaling week. So the scaling week will be running during this same week, and actually potentially the week before to a degree as well, because that feeds into the Social Good Summit, which is going to be happening Tuesday morning. So the Social Good Summit is UNDP's annual gathering of the finance and development communities, sustainable development communities, where they bring, at this iteration, they're going to be bringing projects from across the spectrum. So from very, very early startup all the way through to, Series A or some of the more established companies, to Geneva to meet with investors and also to have discussions about the landscape. And so that's going to be happening in the morning. And then with the afternoon, Tim's organization, Alpha Mundi, it's the 10th anniversary of their Social Alpha. I think it's a fund, but Tim, correct me if I'm wrong.
It is.
Yeah, a fund it's the 10th anniversary. So there's going to be a little bit of a meeting and celebration. So this particular part in the afternoon there is the workshops and meeting. And there's going to be then, as I said, a little bit of a celebration. It's going to be actually a lot of a celebration. There's going to be an impact finance awards that'll be given, and a gala dinner. So Tim, do you maybe want to really quickly just go over what the 4 awards given are? I always forget. There's profitability or...
Yes, you have a good memory. It's a 1 award for impact, another award for sustainable growth, a 3rd one for profitability, and the 4th one, in collaboration with the SGS, will be innovation for development. And this is all based on 2018 data.
And it's SMEs.
It's focused on
right?
SMEs in developing countries. Sorry.
Yeah, perfect. So that's going to be on the Tuesday evening. That's going to be the Tuesday evening. And then the next day, there's also a little bit more of a closed meeting for some of their stakeholders. And that's also when FC4S will be having their closed meetings, which is like their AGM, their actual kind of business meetings. And the Thursday, the Swiss will be hosting during the morning and over lunch a large event showcasing what's happening in Switzerland for the various participants of all these different meetings. So the Social Good Summit, the Social Alpha, the FC4S, and then FC4S will be holding a special Africa, I guess I shouldn't call it an Africa Day anymore because it looks like it's likely going to be an afternoon, but focused on how to build financial centers in Africa and also, drive more finance generally to Africa and sustainable development. So that is, and I just want to be clear that this is still moving around. The Swiss event is for sure the Thursday, and Social Alpha and Social Good Summit are also for sure. And other things are still in flux, but generally this is what we think the week will look like. And as I said, I'm right now working on a mission and vision with a few key people who are involved in the week, so that others who may be thinking about touching on a topic might look to fill in some of these other slots or to complement some of the things that are happening. But that Swiss event is going to be between, I think they're saying 300 to 400 people. So it's going to be, a big event. So it will encapsulate the entire community and the various communities that are in town for that. So that's what the week is going to look like. There's also talk right now of a potential manifesto being adopted for sustainable finance. That's being investigated. There's also talk of a hackathon that would happen during the week. So there's a number of moving pieces, but this at the moment is what I know to be correct. And I'll keep updating you guys on our monthly webinars. And if anyone is planning on running another event, you can reach out to me directly and I can loop you into the planning processes for making the most out of the week. There will also be some kind of joint communicating about what's happening, and so that people who are interested can take part. I kind of see it like these various big UN meetings or Davos, where there's kind of a couple main events, and then and some of them will be closed, some will be open, but we'll communicate about them together so that people know everything that's happening. So any questions about the week? Okay. And like I said, I'll keep you updated. It's all moving really quickly and it looks like it's going to be really exciting, but yeah, John?
Yeah, sorry, just to drive home the point about kind of one point of information, and it would be wonderful if we could have imagine a website or something like that would have everything on it. Because we're very good at doing things in silos in Geneva. So it would be great if we could avoid that and maybe get people from Zurich and other places involved too.
Yes, definitely. That's a big part of the piece that I'm focusing on, is that breaking of silos and how we communicate together and ensure that people can get all the info in one place. And like you said, pull in people from Bern and Zurich as well.
Kaylee?
Yes.
Speaking with Nicolas and Anne-Marie this morning, they had the same issue, I think, that you might have and that we have, which is trying to keep everybody informed at the same time with a lot of moving parts for what's turning out to be a pretty ambitious and complex week. And the UN in Geneva has organized multiple conferences in the past using an application. It's a phone app called WOVA, WHOVA. And the interest of this WOVA application is you can create group chats. You can register participants and speakers. You can update the agenda at the touch of a button, and everybody gets the update at the same time. You can even share documents and photos, and it's free for the applicant. I think there's a small cost for the organizers. So I recommend that in this day and age we start using an existing application to coordinate this complex agenda. That's at least the best application that I've come across for this purpose. And the advantage is the community that gets created by the event can continue to interact on the application before or after the event.
Great.
Yeah.
That's super. I will Google that immediately after this. And yeah, I think that's going to end up falling with me, this kind of joint communications effort, and how we keep everything straight. So this is really helpful. Thanks, Tim. Any other comments? Okay. So I just wanted to remind everyone about the website. You can get to it by 2 addresses, makes it pretty easy. It is password protected because it's not a public thing. You all have been invited because of the role that you play in the finance community. So please do visit that website and check out all the information. I just maybe will highlight a couple things. So the section labeled experiments is where you'll find all the information on the Pipeline Builder, the Blended Finance Center, and the Finance Week. So as we have updated information, I will be putting it there. So if you want to go look at things. So for example, Steve had asked questions about during the workshop. The key questions that came out are up there. I don't think we have outcomes yet, but that as we have things, they'll go up there. There's another section that's called events, and there's upcoming and past. If you click the past events, you'll see all of these webinars, the workshops, and the great thing about that is when you click it, it will have, for example, this video or the PowerPoint presentations or the agendas or the notes that came out of the various meetings. So that's a way that instead of having to go through a big Dropbox folder or something, you can easily navigate and find the pieces that you need and download them. Anything that gets worked on as a group is as a Google Doc, so that makes it kind of simple. So please do use this as a resource as much as you need. And of course, you also know where to reach me. And I'm always here if you have any questions or need help. And then finally, we absolutely will continue. Sorry, I'm just getting a few group chats here to me, but I'll answer those individually after because they look like they're just one-on-one things. But the next webinar is going to be, it's always the last Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. unless I forget what time zone I'm in, but normally that would be when it is. So the next one will be Tuesday, May 28th at 3 p.m. It's the same link. It all should be in your calendar. And I think that's it. So I'll give it one last opening for any comments or questions. And if not, I'll say have a great afternoon and we'll talk to you all soon. Great. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, Kali.
Bye.
Bye.
See
Thank
you
you.
tomorrow.